What's up, bro?
What's up?
Where we at?
This is Wauchula, Florida.
Thanks, man.
Home of the greatest people ever.
Welcome to Wauchula, Florida. Let's get something to eat and then we'll tour the town. Exceptionally good. Would you say the food was good, Katie?
If I eat the beans, I like it.
Dude, it was perfect. I mean, some of the best Mexican food I've ever had. Let's take a spin around the town and see what it looks like. Okay, hola mi gente. Bienvenido a Wauchula, Florida. So let's go for a spin through the town and see what it looks like. Now, the pronunciation of this town to the locals is Wauchula. A lot of people don't know how to pronounce it right. They throw the U in there. Most likely because the town's large Hispanic population, the U has been dropped because the phrase Wauchula makes a lot of sense in Spanish. So it's only logical that instead of saying Wauchula, people would just say Wauchula. Now, Wauchula is located right there, somewhere along South Central Florida, right outside of the Tampa metropolitan area. The town is exactly 70 miles as the crow flies north of Naples, Florida. And we know that because we were in the pigeon racing sport, and Wauchula is the 70-mile toss. So it's a town I'm very familiar with, at least driving through it quite often. So if you live in this area and you've seen people dropping pigeons off at the Walmart, now you know what the crap they're doing. Historically, this area really hasn't been very strong economically, and there's some impoverished neighborhoods in the city that will testify to that. The Peace River flows right outside the city, and with Hurricane Ian, a lot of the river flooded, causing a huge amount of destruction to this town. Even though it's far inland, the town really suffered greatly with Hurricane Ian, with a lot of the rural communities in the outskirts of town having a lot of flooding. More than you could imagine. It was really horrific what they went through. And there's not a lot to do here other than drive around in squatted F-350s, erratically playing loud music. There really isn't much going on out here. It's a small rural town in a fairly boring region of Florida. The people here really are warm, friendly, and inviting, and just about every single time that I've came to this town and dealt with the people, it's been an ultimately fun and very enjoyable experience because the people really are warm, welcoming, truly Florida hospitality. I don't mean like flicking you off in traffic. I mean like real Florida hospitality. Like the people here really do have really good morals and values. Walk into a grocery store in this town and you'll notice that the locals all seem to know each other, say hello. It's really a small community of about 5,000 people where everybody seamlessly knows everybody else. At this point, the population is between 50 to 60% Hispanic. That's mostly going to be Mexicans, followed by Guatemalans. Most of them are here on a work visa to work in agriculture, which is mainly the main source of income in this area, which just goes to show that it's a really impoverished region of Florida. You'll see these buses all over town, and they are transporting the migrant workers to the fields, and a few times they'll bring the migrant workers to the Walmart so they can do shopping. Since they're here on a visa, a lot of times they're not going to have a driver's license, so the people that they work for will once in a while grab them all, take them to the store, and just do little things for them. That's why you'll see those buses all over town. The area has had historically a large Hispanic population, so you're also going to have people that are generationally here from a Hispanic background. The biggest attraction in town is the Walmart, like many small towns, and this was a Friday evening around 6 p.m. The Walmart was really packed. And driving around town, it was clear to note that even at 6 p.m. on a Friday, there was body shops open, people working on their gardens, people moving trucks and trailers. This is a very hard-working community. Hardee County is the poorest county in Florida, and it's not because the people here are lazy. Even on the weekends, you'll catch people working here. These people are very hard-working people. Just because it's a poor community does not exactly mean that it's because of laziness. You go into other parts of the South and you find poor communities, it's because the people there just don't want to try very hard. Well, that is definitely not the case with Wauchula. In this town, even on the weekends and holidays, you'll see people working. The town really hasn't had an opportunity to grow like other places in Southwest Florida. Simply agriculture, mining, and a few other industries that are out here pay very little, are hard industries that nobody wants to get into. And with the town having a large Hispanic population, many of them being migrant workers, we could imagine, with the current attitude that the state of Florida is taking on immigration lately, that a town like Wauchula could lose a good deal of its population. That means that if that were to take place, who would move to Wauchula? Clearly, there's nothing here that would attract people, and it's clear to the residents of this town that the town itself depends on these workers, since it is, after all, a farming rural town. So despite this being a very conservative area of Florida, the locals here are not in favor of the new immigration laws in Florida, as it's just about a death sentence for this town and its only source of income. Even as it sits, the town really hasn't grown that much, so imagine if they were to lose up to half of the town's population. This reminds me of back in the 70s, what happened in Everglades City, Florida, where the state made some type of fishing activities illegal, and that was the only source of income Everglades City had to survive. It just led to the locals rebelling against the government and the town entirely dedicating itself to the importation of illegal imports from Colombia and the Caribbean islands, which led basically to everybody in town being involved in one way or another with illicit activities, since at that time the federal government did not allow the industries of fishing, that was the only subsistence the locals had back then, to survive on, making them illegal. And similarly, the state of Florida is now making a lot of the activities that promote the economy of this area be against the law, which is likely going to lead to a lot of people here simply not being able to comply with the law because it's subsistence. It's the only way these people have to survive in this impoverished region of Florida. And real estate prices in this town have gone to a level that is completely unreasonable considering the income sources that there are available. Meaning that for the most part, despite the fact it's expensive to live in Wauchula these days, there's really no justification for it. Despite the difficult economic conditions, crime hasn't really been a huge problem in this Florida town like it has in other towns in Florida that have the same challenges. And while homelessness and addiction are not unheard of here, with a small population of just about 5,000 people, they're in a lot better shape than a lot of other places, especially rural communities that are facing a huge overdose crisis. Here in this particular region, it hasn't been that much of a problem. In fact, Hardy County has some of the lowest overdose death rates in the entire state of Florida. So a problem that's plaguing a lot of small towns in Florida, drugs and addiction, really isn't a huge problem here. However, these monstrous squatted trucks are everywhere, and that is a plague that the town needs to eliminate immediately. I talked to one resident of the town who told me that he spends so much money on wheel alignments and ball joint replacements for his squatted truck, there's no money left over for drugs. So at least if you give the youth an incentive to spend all their money on auto parts and repairs, they may not have anything left over to use the money for something illegal. That's something good to look forward to. Shopping opportunities are limited in Wauchula, Florida, but at least they're existent in some form of another. Whether you enjoy going to the Walmart, the Winn-Dixie, or the Bells, maybe even the Dollar Tree, there are like 3 places in town you can go to if you're completely bored out of your mind and didn't have a transmission to replace on your pickup truck because the fact it's freaking squatted has just about ruined everything in the drivetrain. Overall, it's not a bad looking town, and one of the biggest complaints that I hear from the youth is that most of the girls in town are just too chubby, overweight, and nosy. When they're not eating a donut, they're gossiping, and a lot of the local guys will go to other towns like Arcadia or Bradenton when it comes to town to find a good wife because the women of this town are just too gluttonous, lazy, or preoccupied gossiping to make good wives. Now on the east side of town, there are what we call in Florida estates. It's kind of like rural areas. So if you're looking to move into this town, you want to be like in a nice rural area, look to the area east of town. There's a lot of big plots of land out here, beautiful farms. Overall, today with the current real estate prices, it almost doesn't make sense to move here anymore because it's as expensive as other large cities that offer so much more. But if you're looking for a nice country town in Southwest Florida, then Wauchula is definitely one to consider. Perhaps you really dislike your wife and kids and just want to make them move somewhere miserable so that they can not enjoy their lives anymore, then Wauchula would definitely be a good choice for you. Or if you just want a nice country town with friendly people and a horrible dating selection, I really didn't put a lot of effort into today's video. At least I pronounced it right, because other people couldn't even pronounce the town's name right. Alright, but jokes aside, if you are looking for a small rural town with great people, I would definitely recommend Wauchula. It's a lot better than Arcadia and LaBelle when it comes to crime, and it's one of the few rural towns in the state of Florida you can move to as a minority and not feel like you're a dang alien from Mars. I would describe the locals here as good-hearted country people, not as backward hicks, and that's a huge improvement over the vast majority of the small towns that are out there. That right there makes Wauchula an awesome little town. And they're not boring people. You'll really genuinely have a great time every time you come out here because the people are great talkers, fun people. I really enjoy going to Wauchula, Florida. I can't ever once recall a bad experience here because the people really are awesome. And if you're a morbidly obese person like myself, you'll find that these people have some of the best cooking anywhere in Florida. I mean, we've tried barbecue out here and it's been incredible. We've tried Mexican food out here. It's been incredible. Just about any food you try in this town will be incredible. There's a great little pizza place right downtown that has like a brick oven. They're incredible as well. When a small town has good food and friendly people, it makes it an incredible place. Wauchula, Florida. If you're not moving there and you're just traveling across Florida, you want to see some beautiful country roads, I would definitely recommend a trip for you to explore this little town. Can't really say the same about Avon Park. I would probably cross that one off the list. This is Jose from Southern Life. I hope you enjoyed today's video. And if you like exploring South Florida, I definitely think you should check out Wauchula for a different type of exploration. A lot of people come to Florida for the beaches, but we really do have some incredible little country towns, and Wauchula is one of the best. Despite the horrible dating options in this town, everything else is pretty legit. Unless you need a job or something like that, at which point you may want to consider a larger city.